sports and ignoring what his kids say. Then we went back across the street, went in. I picked up my phone and looked what my cousin Milan came on Facebook to say, and it was that post, bro. She reposted a picture of a tweet from one of MLK's kids and said, "All y'all white people that want to keep on quoting some peace 1960s MLK shit while people are getting killed still now, y'all are racist. You need to stop." And here's that quote, by the way. This is from one of MLK's kids.
Yeah. No, for real, man. Because even some people think that they're standing up for the cause, but not knowing that they're hurting. You know.
Yeah.
Serious, they'll feel like they have to say something and not taking the time to realize what they're saying. You know.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point. It's gotten to the point.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't think it could. That was the whole problem. They didn't think it could even get to the point. And guess what, y'all? It's got to the point. There isn't really a middle anymore. I know a lot of y'all like to bank your whole life on living in the middle, and it's a decent strategy. I get it from a logic chess standpoint. It's the balance game. But there comes certain powder keg points when there isn't a middle.
Right.
When it gets to be about people's lives or not and stuff, and right and wrong, there is no middle.
Yeah.
It's just right and wrong, alive or not.
We got to the point where like everybody wanted to talk so much and nobody wanted to listen. It feels like everyone's just yelling at each other over and over again without really hearing. Like if you start opening yourself up to being an ally or being a part of decolonizing yourself, decolonizing your mind, decolonizing the space, it takes a lot of really hard work, which requires looking at a lot of shadows inside of ourselves that have been indoctrinated through a system that's meant to oppress every single one of us, except for the very few that are planning all this, and they're behind the scenes. So when we're divided and we're all speaking over each other and thinking that we know the best, not looking at where we fall short, if we get called out, not checking ourselves and seeing what's going on, it causes division amongst all of us, which makes it so much easier for the entire system to be enforced.
Right, right.
So for people who have been asking for a long time, what do we do? What do we do? How do we be allies? This is your big time and your big chance to, instead of inserting in conversations and inserting opinions and relating about your experience of an issue that's not about you, here's your big chance to have it not be about you.
Right.
And just listen to us. It's time to listen.
And see, that's the thing where I feel like nobody really takes the time to listen. You know what I mean? If you look at society today, there's children being held captive in the penitentiary along the border for looking for a new way of life.
For
it's
running
not
from
fair.
what any of us would run from.
You know what I mean? Running from inhumane conditions to be placed in inhumane conditions. Instead of being accepted with open arms and say, hey, there's a better way of life here for you, you know?
That was ever the classic America whole thing, right?
Right, right.
Put in those conditions and then villainized as well.
Yeah.
Villainizing children, like babies.
Turning them into criminals.
Yeah.
Like you're implementing that criminal thought process in their mindset.
Our brains are systems, so they become what we tell them. And when you have so many people, the whole world pretty much, loudly echo chambering this propagandized news system, these people that are sitting there being attacked and villainized constantly, eventually you're like, enough is enough, and fine. If you tell me this, then fine.
Yeah.
But I still have to survive. I still have to live.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something that no one should really feel like they can comfortably ask someone else not to do. You would do the same thing. It's just you need to understand how far someone's experiences can be away.
Right.
We all have the tendency to assume that other people's lives are like ours in millions of tiny ways about everyday things that adds up into thinking that people are some kind of weird clone of you, and they're not. People face different things, and it really is different, and it's not a joke. People aren't bored. People have wanted to say that people are rioting because they're bored. People aren't rioting because they're bored. People are rioting because the public officials that are elected, hired, paid by our tax money to be in our communities to help serve, protect us, and all that other good stuff, aren't doing that, first of all. And second of all, now that we're on the subject, have always been in an unbroken lineage the descendants and inheritance of a system of slave catchers. And that's right on the police museum website for anyone that wants to check. We can get the link in the description below.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Not too many people want to believe it, but they all should know that that's where police were formed. Was to police the plantations, to police runaway slaves, catch them, collect bounties. You know what I mean? They formed their offices off dead black people.
And as well as to police any whites or anyone else who might decide to become an ally or even a harborer merely to any of those people.
It's like we were saying earlier. So many whites have seen what has happened to another human being. They feel as if that would happen to them, and they're right. It has happened to them for standing up for rights of other humans.
Into the past, white allies have put their lives on the line and have met violence.
Yeah.
They've been lynched alongside
Victimized,
the people who
burned,
were trying to help.
homes set on fire.
They've been dragged behind pickup trucks and shit too. Yep.
Yeah, I commend each and every one of them that stands up today because they know what it could take place. You know what I mean? They know that there's this here and that there, and you know what I mean? There's so many different aspects to lives that aren't being mentioned in these days and times. You know what I mean? Right. Everybody was talking about the Illuminati before this shit happened. Once this shit happened, nobody's talking about it.
Everyone forgot about all of that upper
and it's
control stuff. It's not
was
fake.
all this meant to happen? You know?
It's
and if
not
you
fake,
look at
it's real.
time, it is. It is. There's all this revolt, all this uprise, all of the fuck begging to say stop killing us. It had to take place. You know, it had to. For better conditions to come about, we have to address the conditions that are faulty. And no one has until now.
That's right. Know? And it goes for everyone. And that's the other broader thing for people to realize is that this struggle is about us, and then also on a higher level, it's about everyone else too. It's about all of you too. You know, this is everyone's struggle, and these are basic human rights that everyone needs to hold dear and sacred, just like the whole classic thing. Because the real message, when anyone's rights, because we're citizens, think about the gravity of what's happening. We are American citizens born here, natural citizens. What is being done, what is being threatened, what's already been done, what is being suggested as a plan of action against citizens, and the fact that setting the precedent of doing that to any one of us sets the precedent that it can be done to any one of us.
Right. All of us at any given time.
To any one of us, yes. Yeah. So just because you don't particularly identify with the faces that you see this happening to, just always, even if you can't get past that level, at least always remember, you know that we are American citizens, though. We're Americans. And we're normal.
Imagine if that was John F. Kennedy's son they did that to in the streets.
Right.
Yeah.
Had that been John F. Kennedy's son they did that to in the streets. George Floyd, now John F. Kennedy's son, in the streets like that, down on the ground, being killed.
9 minutes.
9 minutes. They would have tore everything down.
Absolutely.
Everybody would have tore everything
With
down.
people just walking by and stepping over and stuff like that. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So, you know, we're somebody's son and somebody's daughter and somebody's mama and daddy and auntie and uncle and everything else too. We're people.
Right.
That's what I mean. Normal. We're people too. We're Americans. We wear blue jeans and drink soda pops and go
love
to movies
barbecues,
and all that stuff.
baseball, basketball, football, everything, soccer,
all
everything.
that normal stuff.
You know, we're
just
all
like
alike,
you,
man.
we
If
want
we're
that
attacked,
just like you
can look back at September 11, 2001, when we were attacked as a whole people. We stood together, united, and went off and kicked ass about it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Just to turn around and be spit at like this is just horrific, man. It's like, what the fuck? You know?
They want everyone to be together only when it serves a certain purpose and narrative.
Yeah.
And then the moment that that purpose and that narrative is no longer being served, we're instantly back to pushing people apart through any type of
That's right.
Any type of way.
Classic
Through
Roman divide and
classism, through
conquer.
racism, through all of it.
And they
We're
admit
all
that.
out here, and we're all out here judging each other. I mean, people have to admit there's so many times you've looked at someone that you know and love and even had a judgment because it's been indoctrinated into us. And that's the pain that we have to face, is that we've all been affected by this. Nobody, no one person, no one single soul can convince me otherwise, cannot convince me otherwise, can be harmed and brutalized in the type of way that people are being harmed and brutalized, and that not affect the entire global population.
Right.
That hurts us in our souls and our spirits. That leaves blood in our streets. That's feeding.
Essentially
where we're at.
on all our hands.
Yes.
And you can see the response
Serious.
from the global
If we don't stand up
population.
and speak, it's like we've done it ourselves.
Yes.
They're on our side, though. You know, you can see, speaking of the global population, that's made the news that everyone else all over the place in France and Russia and all kind of places on the
London,
other side
everywhere.
of the globe
Are all
Are-
taking a stand.
are fucking shit up in solidarity with us right here,
Yeah.
Minneapolis. Yes,
Taking a stand.
this is
begging
real.
for a
This
change.
is really happening.
You know? Begging for a change. Crying and pleading, man.
No,
You
no
know?
longer crying or pleading, but demanding now.
Demanding
Actually
now.
demanding a change.
Yeah. And in a way, if you look at it, when a child has a temper tantrum, that's what they do, bro. When they don't get something they do, they cry, they tear shit up, bro. You know what I mean? And then you address it as a parent. What's wrong, son? You know what I mean? So that's basically what we've done our whole lives as human beings. And when we don't get what's being asked and deserved of, you know what I mean? You act out.
When
You know
no
what I'm
one
saying?
asks you what's wrong, no one asks you how can I help, how can we
They say if you
do
want
this.
things to change, to go vote instead of saying what needs to be changed.
I mean, that's even more
You
broad
know?
and basic
Or
than,
saying this needs to be
than
changed,
even
that
just
needs to be
people.
changed.
If you back
You know?
anything
and how can we
into
vote
a corner
without saying that?
in violence, there will come a point when even an animal will just start trying to rip apart the enclosure it's in and that kind of stuff. Any all life. And that's the point of what's being at stake here, is that people aren't realizing we're just normal people like you, and we think we're like you too, and we're just nice too, and then we're just getting killed for no reason. That guy was just some guy. He was just somebody's daddy, somebody's uncle, somebody's son.
Just going to the
Just
store.
going to the corner store to, like, I don't even, who even knows what he was going to get, some little odd items from the convenience store. Think about that. If your uncle, your dad went down to the bait shop or something,
You expect him to come back
and
with a
just
bucket of worms to go
didn't
fishing or
come
something.
back. 10 minutes later, he's
Serious.
fucking dead.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Heartbreaking, man. Heartbreaking.
And then there's evidence. There's so much evidence. And then the legal system fails us again and again and again. And they say, "What? There's not enough evidence to prove this. There's not enough evidence. You can't see that." They doctor the autopsy reports. There has to be independent autopsy reports done, just to get the truth out there.
Just to get the truth. That's what's crazy.
No station or office is incorruptible if it's inhabited by a human. Coroners are humans and are corruptible. Officers are humans and are corruptible. Politicians are humans and are corruptible. We are all humans. And we can't continue to place responsibility in the wrong people's hands as if they're not subject to the same human flaws that we all are and the same pressures.
Right.
We have to put the right people in the right places.
And then continue to pay attention.
And that's also a classic basis of American society, is that we're, like I said before, a culture by, of, and for the people, and it is our right, written into our sacred documents and scrolls of the country, that if our elected officials aren't serving the purpose that they were elected for, it is within our rights to demand that those offices be filled by people who will serve those purposes
That is true. That is true.
to
And
their
it's-
fullest written intent and extent.
And it's like the Constitution was put there in place to uphold their will and their way. But once we as citizens have proof and visual evidence of why this should be abolished, you know what I mean? The whole institution was built on slavery.
Yes.
Yes.
Why are they still in control of the citizens?
When slavery was abolished,
Right.
Which
When
it really
it
wasn't,
was never.
because the 13th
Right.
Amendment directly states right in the documentation of the amendment
Serious.
that slavery is not okay
The police have
unless-
no legal
unless we can bring
hearsay
you up
over
on charges
us.
for something, and then
They have
actually
no
it's still
legal
okay
hearsay
for you.
over us, for real.
Yeah.
It was all built on slavery. Everything was built on slavery. Slavery once was abolished, therefore their justice system, their Department of Justice, was all built on a Department of Slavery.
That's
They
right.
they changed the A to the J to the S and the S to the J, and that's all it was.
That's right.
Serious.
That's
So
right.
therefore, that whole office should have been torn down. There should have been a whole new branch to come in. Sure, they got different branches above them, and that's probably why there's different branches above them, because that is who they are essentially.
It has to be divided
You
for
know?
protection like that. That's
Serious.
a strategy. But that brings us to the modern day with that same issue of still to this day, and they openly, proudly admit that they're based on Greek and Roman shit without saying the obvious fact that those societies and all Babylon-ass Western societies are based on a basis of it must be cheap or free, eternally, linearly attainable labor from conquered populations. And they have a pattern that has been stretching westward from Babylon back in those days that they want to always gloriously hearken back to, of enslaving surrounding populations of people, exhausting both the human and natural resources of the area, and then needing to move westward. And they're still stabbing westward.
Man, it's crazy, man. The times that we live in today. We
You
pick
know?
up any religious book and they say this would come about. When the coronavirus came about, that was everybody's thing. The end of days was coming. You know. Now you turn around, look around. A man is killed during a pandemic when he's just running to his place to get a shop, get something. Even if he was in the wrong, even if he went in there and stole a bag of chips,
The
he
penalty
should be
still
in
isn't
right to do so
execution.
because of the pandemic. A grocery store owner should say, you know what, I understand, and write it off as stolen merch.
Also,
It's
yeah,
covered in
and just-
insurance anyways.
And just
Yes.
chill out.
So I didn't understand the philosophy of this man who called the police.
But take it deeper. No, get them. Spear them by their own shit.
Serious.
Even by the philosophy of their own code of law, the penalty for petty theft, a misdemeanor, is not death at all, and
is
certainly
not death.
isn't summary execution in the street immediately. Because we don't have any sort of codes, because
They
this isn't a
did that man
totalitarian
like if
state
he was Osama bin Laden.
that allows
And even Osama
summary
bin Laden was
execution of
allowed
citizens.
a
Yeah.
hearing.
That was a
There is no
public
law that allows
execution
summary
with
execution.
no hearing,
Man.
no rights. That was a blatant. That was, in my opinion, that was a blatant. We don't care. We are openly and adamantly against you. We will always be, and that's that. And that was that on that for me. That was it. I was like, you know, we try to talk about reform that, reform this, abolish it. It's never been for us, and it never will be for us, and it's never been for any of the American people, because it's always been about indoctrinating
An
everybody.
institution, a corporation, and a way to keep their economy going.
Yes.
A way to keep fattening their own pockets from slave families and slave owners from years and time again.
And then the industrial proletariat, poor ass workforce that they keep that way and only dole out little pittances of the wealth that they literally generate.
Exactly.
And now they have it even worse, to where we have these transnational corporations and we're all wearing clothes unless we take special trouble and
It's
go to
like-
special ends that are made by some 5-year-old for
It's-
5 cents an hour in Myanmar and shit like that, and it's actually still just the same shit it ever was.
It's like, yo, we're paying them to kill us. We have no knowing of which they all citizens. This is
Exactly.
what we do, because they've killed every last citizen. I mean, some get kill people and then get taken into handcuffs, but then there's others like George Floyd, who had so much as a counterfeit $20 bill and was killed in the streets.
But these other dudes can go on a rampage and then they take them out to the,
They
to
take
the
them in custody.
McDonald's
Yeah.
Yeah.
to get
Take
a
them to
happy
McDonald's,
meal
get a Happy Meal, and take them to jail.
and take them to jail.
Like, wow. There's
That's
And oh, they're mentally
Come on.
ill, and oh, they were under stress, and
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
but then blatantly I was gonna say disregarding, but yeah, disrespecting what I slipped up to say. It's absolutely disrespecting the fact that we're all people, that we all
Serious.
have that.
Yeah, you can't tell me
We
that's an
as human
imbalance
beings
in
have to
practice.
stand up for our rights
Yes.
as a whole.
That's right.
As a whole, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Our lives matter. That's what I think. And when Black Lives Matter came up and they started bumping heads about All Lives Matter and then them clashing heads at the beginning of that, that was set forth. Somebody put that into play for someone to say that, because I believe that when they started out, Black Lives Matters came out to say that all lives matter, yes, but you're forgetting about ours.
Yeah.
You know? So this is going to be the forefront of this here segment. Would like if you would help us follow this here procedure and get things changed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at black, you could look at to be beautiful lives. You know, you silence the of America's children.
That's right.
No.
Yes.
That's
Serious. And nobody's paying attention. You know?
To the fact that we're just regular people. We have
Yeah.
kids and stuff too. We have little kids over here, man. We don't
Yeah.
need any of this stuff to be going on. We need it to just get fixed now.
Serious, man.
We
Serious.
just want to play t-ball and all that stuff too, and we want to, like he said, we want to have the cookout and just
I
chill and
remember
relax.
I remember when coming up, man, kids would bully my white friends, man, and I'd have to stand up for them, you know? And people would ask, why are you sticking up for them? Da, 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 da. And I'd listen to the things, and I'd then turn around and say, well, what if they were doing this to you? Isn't this what we stood against? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Isn't this what we stood
We
against
can't
and asked for a
become-
difference of?
Because
You
we
know?
can't allow the trauma of what we've been through
Yeah,
to trick us into becoming what we stood against.
yeah.
That's happened. It's a classic trope that's happened to so many peoples, so many nations throughout all of history. We have the rich tapestry of history that now you all got a phone, you got a computer that has all of human knowledge in your hand. Look that shit up. People have fallen for this ruse since the beginning of time, where they've been traumatized culturally and allowed that trauma to seep into their culture, permeate it, and turn them insidiously and subversively, secretly and slowly into the very thing, or a weird version of the very thing that they once stood against.
Right.
And we can't allow that to happen on any front. But this is for everyone. Not this
For
isn't
real.
about us, and
It's
this
like
isn't only about other people. It's all
the
of us.
police force has disrupted our way of life again.
Mm-hmm.
We were supposed to be opening back up as a community on June 1st.
Exactly. Yeah, we were about to open back
Serious.
up. Days was a week away
Right.
from opening back up.
Out of a pandemic.
What did you do?
And
What
everyone
did you
was
do?
excited to be community, and everyone
What
was excited
did you
to see each
do?
other.
Why would you do that?
And now they're over there scaring people people to be against each other.
Let's take a smoke break here.
let's have a little
All right, we will be back.
intermission.